In 1953, America made a decision that would haunt it for generations. It cost just $1 million. It took barely 4 days, and it turned a democratic ally into a bitter enemy that would reshape the Middle East, destabilize global oil markets, and create a hostile power that still threatens American interests today. The decision was simple: overthrow a democratically elected government to protect British oil profits. The consequences were catastrophic. Iran did not become an enemy of the West by accident. It was made one, deliberately, surgically, and with full knowledge of the risks. And understanding how this happened is not just history. It is a lesson in how short-term financial greed can destroy long-term strategic security. Because what America did in Iran in 1953 didn't just change one country. It set a pattern that still bleeds money and power from the American Treasury today. Welcome to the financial system. Control the money, control the history. And remember, simple is never easy. To understand this disaster, you have to understand what Iran was before America broke it. In the early 1950s, Iran was not an enemy. It was a constitutional monarchy with a functioning parliament, a vibrant middle class, and vast reserves of oil. But there was a problem. That oil, Iran's greatest national asset, was controlled almost entirely by a British company called the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, the ancestor of what we now know as BP. For half a century, British shareholders had extracted billions from Iranian soil while paying Iran a pittance in return. In some years, Britain collected more in taxes from Anglo-Iranian than Iran received in royalties from its own resources. The company refused to let Iran audit its books. It paid Iranian workers far less than foreign staff. It housed them in slums while British managers lived in luxury compounds. And when Iranians complained, they were told to be grateful for the privilege of having their wealth extracted. By 1950, resentment had reached a breaking point. Iranian nationalists demanded control of their own oil, and they found a champion in Mohammad Mossadegh, a lawyer, a parliamentarian, and a man who believed Iran's oil belonged to Iranians. In March 1951, the Iranian parliament voted unanimously to nationalize the oil industry. The people celebrated in the streets. To them, this was freedom. To Britain, it was theft. London reacted with fury. If Iran could nationalize its oil, what would stop Egypt, Iraq, or Saudi Arabia from doing the same? The entire architecture of Western resource extraction was at stake. So Britain launched an economic war. It blockaded Iranian ports with the Royal Navy. It froze Iranian assets in British banks. It organized an international boycott so that no country would buy Iranian oil. Iran's economy began to collapse, not because nationalization was wrong, but because the empire wouldn't allow it to succeed. But economic pressure wasn't enough. Britain wanted Mossadegh gone, and when its own coup attempts failed, it turned to Washington. The pitch was elegant. Mossadegh, the British argued, was a communist sympathizer who would deliver Iran to the Soviet Union. The Cold War was heating up. Eisenhower had just taken office, and the new administration was terrified of losing another domino. The truth? Mossadegh was not a communist. He had suppressed the Communist Tudeh Party. He believed in democracy, property rights, and national sovereignty. But none of that mattered. The CIA greenlit $1 million for what became known as Operation Ajax. And in August 1953, a handful of American agents orchestrated a coup that destroyed Iranian democracy and installed a dictator who would rule for 26 years. Think about what that meant. A functioning democracy was overthrown, not to fight communism, but to preserve oil profits. A man elected by his own parliament was arrested and spent the rest of his life under house arrest. And the Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, was restored to absolute power, not by the will of the Iranian people, but by the will of Washington and London. What followed was predictable. The Shah needed a way to crush dissent and ensure that another Mossadegh could never rise again. The CIA obliged. It helped create SAVAK, the Shah's secret police, and trained its agents in surveillance, interrogation, and torture. SAVAK became one of the most feared security services in the world. It monitored every corner of Iranian society. Political opponents were imprisoned, exiled, or simply disappeared. The methods included electric shock, nail extraction, and techniques so brutal that Western intelligence agencies would later distance themselves from them, but only after the damage was done. For a quarter century, Iran was a silent prison. On the surface, it looked like an American success story. The Shah modernized the economy, built infrastructure, and became one of Washington's closest allies. American weapons flowed into Iran. American oil companies got their share of the spoils. The consortium that replaced Anglo-Iranian gave U.S. firms 40% of Iranian oil production. Money flowed. The system worked. But beneath the surface, rage was building. Every family that lost someone to SAVAK remembered who created it. Every worker who couldn't speak freely knew why. Every student who heard the stories of Mossadegh understood that their country's democracy had been stolen, and who had stolen it. By the late 1970s, the pressure exploded. Strikes paralyzed the economy. Millions poured into the streets, and Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, a cleric exiled by the Shah, returned to lead a revolution that would transform Iran and the world. On January 16, 1979, the Shah fled. Within weeks, Khomeini declared an Islamic Republic. And the rage that had built for 26 years found its target: America. When Iranian students stormed the U.S. Embassy in November 1979 and took 52 Americans hostage for 444 days, they weren't acting randomly. They were acting on a memory, the memory of 1953, when the American embassy had been used as a base for the coup that destroyed their democracy. The students feared it would happen again, and nothing Washington said could convince them otherwise. The hostage crisis paralyzed the Carter administration, contributed to Reagan's election, and cemented Iran as America's enemy. But the real cost was measured in decades, not days. Iran became a theocratic state hostile to every American interest in the region. It funded groups that attacked American soldiers and allies. It pursued nuclear technology that terrified Washington. It formed alliances with Russia and China. Every dollar spent containing Iran, every sanction imposed, every military deployment, every intelligence operation traces back to that single decision in 1953. Think about what that $1 million coup has cost. The Iran-Iraq War of the 1980s, which killed hundreds of thousands and drew America into supporting Saddam Hussein against the very regime it helped create. The endless spiral of sanctions and counter-sanctions that destabilized oil prices for decades. The nuclear standoff that has consumed billions in diplomacy and defense. The proxy wars across the Middle East, in Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, and Iraq, where Iranian-backed forces clash with American interests. And the strategic gift to America's rivals, an oil-rich nation of 90 million people permanently alienated from the West. Here is the financial truth that history teaches. Short-term profit almost always loses to long-term consequence. Britain wanted its oil revenue back. America wanted a reliable Cold War ally. Both got what they wanted for exactly 26 years. Then they lost everything. The oil was nationalized anyway after the revolution. The ally became an enemy, and the bill for that mistake is still being paid today, in blood, treasure, and strategic vulnerability. So what is the lesson? It is not simply that coups are wrong or that imperialism has consequences. The deeper lesson is about how money and power distort judgment. When the short-term incentive, protect oil profits, contain communism, support an ally, overwhelms long-term thinking, the result is catastrophe. Britain and America didn't ask what would happen in 20 years if Iranians remembered what was done to them. They assumed power would hold forever. It never does. And the pattern continues today. Every time a nation prioritizes extraction over partnership, control over consent, profit over legitimacy, it plants seeds that will one day bloom into crisis. If this gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe. Its financial system and history leaves clues. I show you where the money leads.